Okay, it's that time of the week. Let's get it. Indeed. Man talk, man talk, man talk, man talk, man talk central. That's what we're doing here. 4 dudes out of the mud, now we're ruling here. We give it to you, deliver like Amazon. You're listening to Kings and Champions. No matter what we're talking about, we're gonna give it to you straight, man, no doubt. No doubt. Hey yo, we on our way to greatness. God's got our back, so chill and relax. This is Man Talk Central. Welcome back to another episode of Man Talk Central. Let's get it.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Man Talk Central, where experience meets perspectives and nothing is off limits. No filters, no fluff, just uncut conversation. Before we get into it, make sure you tap in with us. Like, follow, and subscribe to YouTube, Instagram, or even send us an email. Before we get into our hot topics for today, let's introduce some and present others. We're going to start today with the guy who we've been doing this for about 2 years. Colonel Esquire, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, gang. Hey, I'm looking forward to this episode. Let's go.
And then we're going to slide over to Ozone's little brother, Dan. Good morning, sir.
Everybody out there. Welcome to the episode. Hope you enjoy
it. And the one brother to my lower left, DJ Eddie T. Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Hope everyone enjoys the episode. Ready to get into it.
Yeah. And I'm your host, law-abiding citizen. Today, we're going to talk about tipping. Tipping. Whether it's at a restaurant or delivery on some goods that you've ordered. I'm sure this is kind of it's touchy for some of our viewers out there. I know personally who have issues with tipping, and some don't have issues with tipping. So we're going to start first with the delivery tipping, right? Is it required? Should you tip? What percentage should you tip? And let me just, before I pass it to you, DJ Eddie T, I'm going to start off with saying this, right? If God can only get a 10th, you should only tip 10%. DJ Eddie T, talk to me.
See, you already took the words out of my mouth. You knew where I was going with it because, hey, I believe in tithing. So why should I need to look down through a receipt to choose 15, 20, 25%? Oh, no. I've always had the whatever percentage it adds up to. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician, but I've always had the double the tax kind of deal. But I guess if the tax is, $60, $70, I'm not doing that. But I'm not going to eat that much food either. So, but anyway, I believe tipping is something that should be done. I mean, we've been doing it for years, but looking at what they make, I guess, per hour, I was told that they only make like way below minimum wage, and that's how they get their money or whatever the case is. I think people should tip. I've seen cases where people have like really, really tipped, and I've seen people tip and be disrespectful with it. Now it all depends on how good the server is. That makes a lot. I still tip them. I mean, I shouldn't have to hold my drink up like every time it's empty or anything when it's only, 4 people in the restaurant. But, when they're super busy, you give them a little leeway. But tipping for sure is something that I think that people need to do. Now, this is going to sound weird, but I've never done Grubhub, Uber Eats, or anything like that. I've never done that. So a driver delivering food for me, I don't know what that's like, because I guess I'm kind of like my mom. I don't trust everybody. I know they put that little sticker seal on there and all of that, but still, I just figure I can jump in the truck. I can run to McDonald's if I need to. So, but that's my thought on tipping. I think that, we should be, part of the game and pay them what they're worth.
No doubt. Very good points. It's funny you talk about that seal when they seal the bag. I remember one time I ordered some Five Guys, but the end was open. I was like, and he looked like he had some old grimy hands. I couldn't even eat with this. But I done spent $48 because using Uber Eats, it forces you to tip at least 10% or what have you. So, Mr. Dan, Ozone, What's your thoughts?
You got jokes. First of all, for delivery tipping, yeah, and you talk about that seal. A lot of times the steam will open that up too. You know, I'll get something like some wings from Wingstop or pizza, and the steam will somehow break the seal and it'll be open, but you can still tell that they didn't peel it open. At least I hope. But I tip when for delivery, depending on the weather, depending on how far they have to drive. You know, if it's bad weather, I'm gonna give you a little bit more because you have to get out there and go get it. You know, I personally think that the apps or these companies should be paying them as far as tipping and driving and tipping serving. But hey, you know, what do I care? I mean, what do they care about what I think? Um, but I don't go by a certain percentage when it comes to that. Now, when it comes to sitting down and eating, I try to do 20%. If it's good service, you know, you may get a little bit more, but if it's really bad service, you probably ain't gonna get none. I'm gonna write a little tip on a napkin, you know what I mean? Like use a condom or something like that, because you don't need to appropriate. It's just that simple. And we're gonna go from there. But yeah, it all depends on the service, you know. They deliver my stuff, you know, and I got instructions. If they put my food on the ground, nah, bro, we're gonna have to retract some of that tip because you know I don't want my food on the ground. I got a chair by the door, put it in a chair, you know, and it's clear in the instructions what you need to do. It's not that hard, especially if you want to tip. I like I said, I'm a big fan of these companies paying the people what they're worth because we're paying enough in the actual price of the food and the actual tax of the food that these companies should be able to cover paying their employees because that's what they are a decent wage where they don't have to live off of tips. And I get it, some states have that minimum wage or below minimum wage where tipping accounts towards their income. I don't agree with that either. I think the companies need to unask some money because they make enough money off of us. That's where I stand off of that.
Okay. Interesting. Paying what you're worth. Nobody gets paid what you're worth, right? But I do like the mindset of if the rule of thumb is 10%, that the company automatically includes that in the overall bill. That way, if the individual who's receiving the goods, they decide to give you more, so be it. But at the end of the day, it is a choice. A person has a choice um, to go along those lines, to be a delivery driver or what have you. DJ Eddie T, I see you have your hand up before I go to Colonel Esquire.
Yeah, that also brings me to another point as far as like, you know, what is it, gratuity included? I didn't mean to jump there in front of it, but while it was on my mind, I know like when you have a large party, they automatically, well, you guys know, you know, how much they add. How did they come up with that? That's my whole thing. Now, I do have an issue with that because, you know, with 12 people, and who's to say that they wouldn't get more if they just let everybody tip what they were going to tip. But they threw that, I've seen gratuity, you know, $25 added and stuff before. So that may be open up to another discussion. But I mean, how you guys feel about that?
Well, in a situation like that, we've had, you know, I've been in a situation where we just gave more. We just, you know, gave them cash, right? And then sometimes even on the receipt, they'll have like a additional tip or another line up under that to answer your question, DJ Eddie T. So, you know, it happens. Colonel Esquire.
All right. I got a lot. So we're going to start off with the delivery tipping and then take a break, come back and talk about eating in, dining in, or whatever, and responding to DJ Eddie T's point about gratuity or included gratuity. But first and foremost, I don't know if y'all knew this, but so RB3 is the king of stories. So got to bow down to that. But so I have a story as far as tipping. It's probably not going to be as good as RB3 stories, but it'll be like the matinee, you know what I'm saying, before the main event. All right. So I used to deliver back in the day when I was a private out of Fort Lewis, Washington, you know, deliver pizzas, you know, and I remember you had to get the pizza or the product out in a certain amount of time, or else it was free or it'd be deducted. So, big service reliability was a big part of tipping, and depending on how you got. And so if you were there on time, the food was hot, you were more likely to get a good tip. You know what I'm saying? And there's like little tips to the trade. You're looking for change. You act like you're looking for change, but you're not really looking for change, hoping that the customer be like, don't worry about it, just keep it, you were good, blah, blah, blah. So you gotta stay on your hustle, stay on your grind. Nowadays, this generation, it's an entitlement. They expect the tip. You see what I'm saying? Like everywhere you go get your Dunkin' Donuts or your Dutch Brothers, and we're gonna ask you a question. Nah, fool, you're gonna ask me for a tip. Just come out and say that's what you want. You see what I'm saying? So why should I tip you if I'm in the line and you're not even delivering it to me? I'm in the line coming to get my coffee, but I got to give you a tip, and I'm walking up to get my coffee. You see what I'm saying? And then I have a nephew that, just eating out one time, because when families get together for various birthdays or celebrations, oh yeah, what do you do? Oh yeah, I deliver for DoorDash and Grubhub, stuff like that. He won't even make the delivery if there's not a tip on there. And in my mind, I'm like, really? You hadn't even earned it. Like, how do I know? Like, I'm not going to tip you until you get there, and I'm going to tip you depending on the service. But he won't even deliver. And a lot of times I've had deliveries twice. It won't be a third. So the first time, my daughter, Mallory, she wanted it, I think a couple years ago for her birthday. Her and her cousins was over there. Oh, we want DoorDash because we never had it. Want the experience. So, we tip on there. I write the tip on there, and it's Steve. So I'm waiting around because, I got 2 teenage girls in the house. Ain't no telling who's coming by the house. This chick comes up. I'm looking for somebody named Steve. This woman rolls up. I'm like, is your name Steve? Oh, no, I just put that on there to protect myself, when I'm making deliveries. I'm like, I'm like, I hang around here waiting on you to delay what I had to do because I thought a dude was coming by. So I can't protect myself. You see what I'm saying? So after that, I was like, and then I was on the road one time and I did Uber Eats, and, I thought I was in the frozen food section because that's how cold the food was by the time I got it. So I'm like, no, never again. I'm not doing that at all. So
yeah, dry, so hot food.
That's what I'm saying. So the delivery, that's trash. I mean, especially when you expect a tip before you even pick up the food. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's like a spirit of entitlement going on with this generation as far as tipping, and I can't stand it. So we can comment on that, and I'm gonna go back to my story about the dining in tipping, what I feel about that. What up, everybody? Colonel Esquire back again. Hey, just coming out here. Appreciate everybody checking us out each and every week. Appreciate your support. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear topics that you want us to talk about. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Click on the notification button on YouTube. That way you get notifications. And throughout all social media, click your notifications, click your follow. Keep us in the algorithm. We know that there are a lot of podcasts out there talking about various topics. So we appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us each and every week. So without further ado, let's get back into it.
Okay. Well, great points. I do believe that you should be required to tip, right? But I think the requirement should be 10%. Right? If you need to do more, you could do more. But I think there should be a requirement because that's a service that's being provided to you. It's lessening your day. It's making things easy. I'm a king of Uber Eats. I mean, I look at my monthly bill and it's horrendous. It's horrible, right? And I truly believe, I think my wife is probably going to delete the app off my phone, but I use it a lot because it's convenience for me. But on that same token, if you buy an $18 meal, then you got the taxes, then you encompass with the, that's a $60. I'm like, I should have went out and got me a steak. All I asked was for a double cheeseburger and some fries. So it's a little bit much, right? I believe everybody should tip, whether it's a tip of the day, like Dan, you know what I'm saying? Use a condom, right? But the percentage is based upon you, based upon the service that you're given. I've been known to give hefty tips, especially, if I see a young lady or a young man, they're understaffed and they're working multiple tables and, they're keeping my glasses charged. They're engaging, they're doing everything they can, right? And they look presentable, right? I mean, to me, presentation is everything. So, it's not going to always be 10%. It could be 20, it could be 30%. I remember being down at South Beach and I even saw, I think it was at Prime something. It was like 40%. I was like, what? Oh, they don't lost their mind. I'll never go back there. But it's just a simple fact that it's getting a little bit out of hand, right? It's really getting a little bit out of hand. Don't get me wrong. It's a solid service that's being provided. We're thoroughly appreciative. But some of the videos I saw where a young lady was like, oh, you're not going to give me a tip. And then a dialogue back and forth, you need to be fired because you are a part of a customer service, so, piece. And you should have a little bit of oomph about yourself. And the people that's receiving should have a little bit of oomph about themselves. So the chick that was going to take her stuff back to what she tell the lady Dan, she said, okay, well, since you're not going to tip me, I'm just going to load this stuff back up and take it back to the store. I'm like, yo, it's a little bit much. But I think one word you said, the entitlement piece, I don't even think it's generational because you got some folks our age that are doing it that feel the same way as jokers that are 18 to 20 years old that are doing it. So, yeah. But if you have bad service, can I get some money off the bill? I mean, I don't know. But if I have bad service, now I do have a cousin, regardless if it's good or bad service, he's going to tip you. Love him to death. No issue with it. But I do have a cousin, he rarely tips. I wasn't going to say that on here, but I might as well throw y'all out there. But anyway, and sometimes, sometimes it's a conflict, right? Because we had a situation where, I got stories. I'm not going to say anything. Alibis. Let's continue. What's going on with the delivered tipping? DJ ADT, you got anything else?
I went back and I said, Grubhub, Uber Eats, I've forgotten all of that back in the day when I used to, order pizza and tip the guy. So I guess that's the original Uber Eats or Grubhub. But yeah, I'd kick them, $3 or $4 or whatever the case was for the pizza. But I do recall one time I had gone to Vegas for a trade show, and lo and behold, it was one of those nights to where they had Lil Jon and not these side, but they had Lil Jon. He was DJing. So anyway, I took one of my customers and I went over to the bar and got a couple of drinks. I just had like a cherry Coke or something, and I got him whatever he needed. And after, the guy made the drinks or whatever, he gave me the bill. He said, okay, now where's the tip? And I was like, huh? And he was like, yeah, where's the tip? And he said, man, I need a tip off of that. And it just kind of threw me because it was like forced. And I don't understand, why they feel as if just because you shot some Coke in a glass and then did whatever over here, now I'm forced to pay you extra when the drinks are already $25. So I just had a bad taste in my mouth about that. Not that I would take it out on anyone else, but I just thought that was kind of messed up how he came at me like that.
That is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But I like how Uber does it. Granted, we're talking about delivered tipping, but like with Uber, when you finish the Uber, then it gives you, you could do it while you're riding in the car, but a lot of times you can wait to the end. And when you when it settles everything and ask if you want to add a tip or whatever. Now, one thing I will say this, we're dealing with Uber drivers, if your car is messed up, usually when I'm pressed for time. So I can't wait to order another one, especially where I live at, right? It might take another 45 minutes to get a dang on car. But if I'm riding in a car that's kind of dirty or it has a stench, oh, you ain't getting a tip from me. Straight up. Dan, what's your thoughts, bro?
Hey, go ahead, Dan.
Yo, some of those people can't afford the BMWs and the Mercedes Benz.
No. I gotta cut you off. I gotta cut you off right there, bro. I gotta cut you off right there. Cleanliness has nothing
to do with
the
Bullmastiff or whatever, that Napoleon, whatever that is that he ride around with him.
Look here, cleanliness has nothing to do with what you buy. You should be clean.
No, I do agree the car should be clean, but I'm doing contactless. So if I can see on my cameras that you pull up and you got Joe Dirt riding around in the car with all kinds of, Budweiser and all that stuff hanging on the Copenhagen on the dashboard, nah, bro. Take my food back. Let's recalculate this because This ain't how this gonna go. You know what I mean? I ain't no telling what you done did. But I do understand your point. I'm just playing around because, you know, some people can't afford Bentleys like you know what I mean?
Shit, I can't afford it either.
But now, for real though, you can't you should have some kind of pride in it, and it shouldn't be something where they come up to the door. From this is my own personal view, obviously. They shouldn't be something where they come up to the door and they're asking you for a tip, or they're telling you where's the tip at, or hey, give me the tip. Now that's not how you approach it. For one, for two, you got to have some proof. So I do agree with Colonel Esquire. A lot of these people are thinking they're entitled to a tip. You know what? If you really want something, you should probably get with your company that you're being hired for and see if you can get your wages increased. Maybe y'all got a union, I don't know, or maybe you should start a union or something, or figure something else out. Maybe customer service isn't for you, especially if you're going to have that kind of an attitude. Granted, I get it that some people are, for lack of better words, being a-holes and they don't tip to save their life, even if you go above and beyond. But that's neither here nor there, because I work hard for my money. So why do I have to tip if I don't feel like tipping? I work just as hard as you. So my money is my money. Your money is your money. Don't tell me how to spend mine, and I won't tell you how to spend yours. If you're not happy with that job, find another one. That's one of the reasons I'm not in customer service, and that's one of the reasons I don't play with people, and I don't do people, because I can't do it, man. I just can't do it. Nah.
Gotcha. Eddie T, you was about to say something?
Well, after what Dan said, I completely forgot what I was because he's upset. No, I know, like, say for instance, Dutch Brothers. I may go to Dutch Brothers once every other month or whatever, but I do know that they're one of the places that, just like not Jersey Mike's, but what's that? What John's, whatever, Jimmy John's. As soon as you order your sandwich, they flip it around and, talking about leave a tip or not. I've never understood that as well. I mean, when did tipping become mandatory in a sense? They give you an option to say no, but it's like, to me, it's like...
Then they're going to spit in your food if you say no.
Yeah, it's like, it's dang near mandatory. It's like you're paying $11 for a sandwich, but then you want me to add 15 or 20% to that. So, yeah, I just make the price of the sandwich what it is and put your tip in there, and then we'll never know. And just leave it at that. Yeah.
Facts. Just imagine if restaurants, we go ahead and transition to the restaurants, if they ask you for tips up front and you're like, I'm not giving a tip. Oh, your food's about to be horrible. But Colonel Esquire, we'll start with you. Tipping while eating at restaurants. Now, when we talk about restaurants, we're talking about everything from Chick-fil-A to Ruth Chris to Prime 401, different levels. We're talking all that. So just want
I'm leaving out fast food. I'm talking like, Applebee's, Outback on up. Any time that, I understand that Chick-fil-A is close because they're all saying, my pleasure. But I'm talking about like actually coming out, getting your drinks first, then giving you a second to look over a menu, and then taking your order. So any type of establishment like that. So when I was in the service, I got chaptered out to go to school to become an officer. So while I was doing that, going through school, as you all know, I was in Lawton, Oklahoma. Fort Sill area. I was going to school at Cameron. So during that time, so got to provide context for those out there who don't know. I know y'all know, but I was old, a little long in the tooth. So they were like, okay, we're going to give you the scholarship, but we're not going to pay you because you are old. And so you may not get approved for the scholarship, or we pay for your room and board and all that kind of stuff. But you can use your GI Bill. But then again, once you graduate, you're under no obligation to come back into service. So anyway, long story short, we was hustling, we was grinding, working 2 or 3 jobs, stuff like that. So one of the jobs that Carrie had was being a server at Applebee's. And whenever I would get out of school or go get out of work at my job, I'd go visit her or whatever. And so periodically, it's Fort Sill. So different training, all kind of military stuff going on. You don't think nothing about it. But I seem to notice that whenever I got in there and go talk to Carrie, hey, who are you here to see? Or blah, blah, blah. If they didn't know me, it'd be like, oh yeah, Canadian Section 5, Canadian Aisle 6 or whatever. And so I'm thinking, okay, all right, well, there's probably some Canadian troops coming down here to train, do that liaison type of stuff, because you see that all the time. You've been on a military base more than a month, you're going to see somebody's army from some other country hanging around the town or hanging around the base. But after a while, I would hear Canadian this, Canadian that, but I wouldn't see anybody in different uniform, whatever. So finally I asked, Carrie, what was going on? And she was like, oh, well, don't tell them I told you this, but Canadian is code for, blacks and large groups or large families. And so basically, long story short, they would fight over who would have to go and sit. Now, once they realized who I was, they was like, they wouldn't trip. But normally, Canadian Aisle 5, Canadian Aisle 6, or whatever, Section 5, or whatever the case is, the servers did not want to deal with black people, and they did not want to deal with large groups or large families, like church groups and all that, because they were notorious for not tipping, and they're working double the amount for, half the tip. Hey, can I get my salt? Can I get my pepper? Hey, this, that, and a third. And I've experienced it too. Like, the three of you all will appreciate this. You have balls, military balls. And me being in HR, I was the S1. For those of you for those who don't know, the S1 is the human resource officer. But usually they're the ones stuck with all the planning of events, stuff like that. That's kind of how I kind of fell in love with event planning, because that's what I was tasked with doing. And there's always the menu. You got the chicken, you got the beef, and you got the seafood option or the pork option. You use chicken cordon bleu, prime rib, or some other thing. But a lot of us are uneducated. We don't realize that the prime rib is actually pink, right? It's done, but it's pink. So you get a lot of people, I want the prime rib because it sounds good. It sounds like elegant. Then they get the prime rib. Oh, no. You got to take this back. It ain't done. No, it's done. You just are uneducated and never had a prime rib before, right? And so you get a lot of that going on in restaurants too. And so, dealing with all that, to your point earlier, DJ ADT, that's why they include the gratuity on large groups. Because they suspect that they're not going to get a tip. Now, granted, to your point, in a perfect world, a larger group, great service should equal a larger tip. But that's not how it works. So that's why when you have a group of, 10 or more, 12 or more, they automatically include the gratuity. Now, I don't know the formula they come up with that, but they automatically include it. And that's why, and there are articles on that. There are studies. It's a sad truth. We don't tip well. Large families, large groups don't tip well. And so to this point, from that day on, I make sure I tip. Now, if there's problems with the service, hey, I'm going to talk to the manager. I'm going to get the bill taken down or deducted, but then I'm still going to leave an appropriate tip. I just won't ever go back there. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't ever want to contribute to us having a bad name. And I know it's not right. It's not fair, but I don't want anyone to say, hey, that dude right there, I told you he wasn't going to tip because he was a brother. You know what I mean? And so that's why I tip. I'm more inclined to tip in a restaurant, regardless of the service, as opposed to like DoorDash or delivery when I'm going to just pick it up myself. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I like that. Great story. DJ ADT.
Yeah. Now, when you're speaking of Canadians and all of that stuff, isn't that up to the hostess to go with the sections? Because I know, like, a lot of times, you're in a bigger restaurant or whatever, and say you have, 5 or 6 servers or whatever the case is, everyone has their section. So wouldn't that be up to that particular person, whatever section they see them in?
Yes, but then the hostess, to your point, but then the hostess will say, okay, Ephraim, you got a Canadian in all five. Then I'm gonna be like, why'd you put him in my section? There's plenty of room to put him in JoJo's section or whatever the case is. So they're
Right.
beating up the hostess. You know
Wow.
what I'm saying?
But I mean, that's
Hostess.
unfair and unfortunate that, so many things have followed the African American community, when it comes to stuff like that. But man, it is what
But
it
I
is.
guess to counter that is there truth to it?
You said, is there truth to it?
Is there truth to it?
I don't know. Our church groups, we pretty much, we do what we need to do, go above and beyond. So, it's typically every Sunday after church, typically 6 to 10 of us will go different places and go eat. And I know that, we tip well. So, I guess we don't fit the stereotype, but that's just part of it.
I know in my life, I've never really been with a group of people or whatever who didn't tip, right? Now, they may not have tipped well, but they've always tipped, So when they say that, when they try to put that label on us, I'm kind of inclined to be like, okay, well, where's the study coming from, right? What location is this coming from? Because shit, everybody I know, they tip. And I don't know all of them. I don't know all of America. I don't know every black person in America, but I'm just saying, it's like, I don't know anybody that doesn't tip.
No, I'd have been with some people that did not tip, and I actually compensate what they should have left. I've been in that situation, so I see.
Okay.
And I will say this now.
Let's call them out. What's their names? What's their names? Let's put them out there. Let's get it out there. No, I'm sorry.
And it'd be like, oh well, I didn't order this. I ordered that. I didn't. No, I shouldn't have to do this.
Go ahead,
when they got the tip jars at the fast food joints, I'm not tipping. I'm sorry, bro. Every once in a while, you may get something, like a coffee shop, get a tip or whatever. If I'm going like KFC, Churches, or McDonald's or Whataburger, and you got a tip jar up there, nah, bro.
Yeah.
I've never seen a tip jar at a fast food place.
Well, I've seen it. Oh yeah,
Really?
they got. Oh yeah, they got.
Well,
I'm not doing it unless I feel like super generous. Now, if I'm sitting down and it's table service, yeah, we're gonna tip. I've only probably been around one time where I was like, I'm not leaving the tip. That's how bad the service was, and it was pretty much insulting for our family to be there. And my wife was like, "Nah, let's." She went and got the manager, and we obviously never went back. But the manager tried to make it right. It was just too late. By that point, I was so far gone. It was over the hill. But
wow.
I will tip just because I know those people work hard, and a lot of them do deserve a tip. Now, to be honest with you, I'm not doing that at fast food, unless like I said, I feel the real need, or they're really nice or whatever. Because, bro, come on, man, everybody's got a tip jar. Everybody's got a tip jar for this. They got a tip jar for that. You go overseas, man. That's why they don't tip. There's some places, like I was talking earlier, Japan. It's an insult to tip. You know what I'm saying? So I'm still a big fan of, or big understanding that these companies need to pay. They make multi-million dollars. There's nothing wrong with paying at least the minimum wage. And I get it, if they make tips, okay, then that's over. But some of these places, they don't even pay them the minimum wage, so they have to live off of tips. And to me, that is not right, especially as much money as these companies are making. They can come out of their pocket a little bit. You ain't giving them health care. You ain't giving them dental. You ain't giving them business. You ain't giving them nothing except for a place of employment. You're taking all the money and giving them below minimum wage and expecting them to live off of that. It's not right. And I thought this was America. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I would tell you, I had this rule of thumb. Anytime we go out, I always have a certain amount. I'm like, this is a tip that I'm going to provide. Regardless of what we're going to order or whatever, I just have something in my mind. But depending on how long it takes me to get seated, depending on how long it takes them, the waitress to come over to at least greet us, to say, hey, this is what's going on. Would you care for some water, some bread, or what have you? All that matters. And at the final bill, right? Because if I feel that, shit, I waited 10 minutes just to get some water. Oh, I'm taking a couple dollars off. You know, if I had to wait. Now I'm getting better because I'm quick to tell my wife, I'll sit down, I'll start my watch. I'll be like, "Gee," and she's like, you need to stop that. She might be busy. I'm like, look, it's not many of us in this restaurant, and I want treatment. If I see someone going to a certain table 3 or 4 times, they haven't come to see me, and it's the same waitress, well, I deduct. I deduct. Now, my wife, she's kind of sneaky because there's been times, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be walking out. I caught her one time. She'll walk back in and she'll give the, waitress a little bit more money. I'm like, she ain't deserve it. She ain't deserve it. But I get it. It's hard. Customer service it's a hard industry to be in. Now, mind you, I'm tech, but I have a group of individuals that support me. They deal with the customer every day. And I often wonder, what if they ask for a tip for all the services that they provide? It's not food, but they're providing a service, right? Because they're quick to send an email saying, hey, well, little Johnny didn't do this, that, and the other in a timely manner or what have you. But nobody's ever quick to give a pat on the back. Hey, your guy really did good. So I kind of equate that kind of like to the monetary piece. When somebody is out there, they're busting their butt, they're servicing you and your family, engaging. Pay them jokers. Give them a little extra couple dollars. What's your thoughts, Colonel Esquire?
Hey, this is Colonel Esquire. I'm not going to keep you long. I just want to thank everybody for listening and watching each week. We appreciate our support. We also appreciate the haters too, because that just keeps us motivated to stay awesome. So, like, share, subscribe. We look forward to your feedback. Don't forget YouTube, Spotify. We post surveys. We definitely want your feedback as far as the questions or the topics that we pose. And yeah, we're going to keep it moving with the more support that we have. One day we'll, start broadcasting live and doing all these great things for you. So we enjoy the podcast. It's a great way for us to stay together as friends, as brothers, and also doing this side hustle and sharing this experience with you. We appreciate you guys staying on the journey. So again, like, share, subscribe, spread the word. We want to keep it going. We want to grow the movement. Appreciate y'all. Let's get back into it. I was triggered.
That's not shocking.
I know, right?
There's not a lot of people, we're still, gaining and building an audience. But for those, some of y'all might be surprised that I'm not a very patient person. So I was just thinking about something. Like when I go order some food, okay, my typical thing is anytime I try to order like any finger food, burger, fries, fried okra, I'm always going to ask for a side of range. Okay. Side of range. Just creature habit. Not a fan of ketchup. I'll dip my fries, okra, whatever in range. So why are you patronizing me by writing down my order? Okay. Yes. Okay. And then every time you bring the food out, the ranch is missing. That irritates me beyond no end. You should have just sat there and looked stupid. Okay, let me try to remember all this. And then I'd have some more grace because my ranch is missing. But if you have a whole book and you're writing it down and I come back to the point where I have to get up and go to the bar and ask for ranch and go to this and do that. You see what I'm saying? And I don't like to eat it without my ranch because then by the time I get done, the food's half gone. Then I'm going in the Super Saiyan mode at that point. It's because I'm ready to crash out because I wanted my ranch. You see what I'm saying? And I got it. I'm respecting the hustle. You out there busy doing your thing. But if you're writing it down, there's really no rhyme or reason why my ranch is not there when you bring the food out. Makes no sense to me. Drives me crazy. And I know that's trivial to a lot of people, but hey, that's paramount to me, right? So I'm paying you, bring my ranch out. Apologize for the crash out.
You know what's crazy? I'm sure we've probably all been in meetings where we've taken notes and then you go back to your desk and you read through everything. You're like, okay. What the hell is that? And you try to be like, what did I just write? I'm not saying waiters or waitresses out there got chicken scratch for, penmanship, but It happens. It happens.
Well, people can't write. Have you seen people write nowadays?
Yeah.
I mean, I know alphabet and letters are like symbols, but they're literally like, this world is becoming illiterate every day.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't sign their name. They can't do nothing. I mean, I don't know, man. As much as I like the city, man, I really am been thinking about just moving to a cave somewhere, dealing with people. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Well, let Carrie
Exactly,
decorate it.
caveman.
If that's gonna be one of the cleanest caves.
Exactly.
Hey man, I want to touch on something real quick. Now, I have been asked when I'm doing events, one person in particular, she's like, DJ Eddie T, you need a tip jar. You need a tip jar, going back to tipping. And I have never been that type of person to say, okay, just what we were talking about a while ago, that's like me forcing you to give me a tip. If I put out a tip jar, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, if I'm playing music or whatever, you come over there and request it. I don't think you necessarily need to request it. I mean, I'm not a jukebox. So don't drop $1 in for me to play something. That's just how I feel. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of DJs that have, tip jars. They have these apps. I see all of that stuff all the time in my feed. You can get this and song request and then, put the tip next to it. Again, that to me puts me in that category of I'm forcing you to, pay me. Someone is already paying me for a service. So, I mean, just because you come up and want a song played, I just look at that differently.
Man, I'm telling you, I would do that. I mean, you shoot. Hey, hey, play this song. I'd have a little screen turning around and put the tip thing just like you would if you're ordering coffee. That's what I would do. Shoot, I'm gonna put a QR code on the podcast. What you talking about?
Okay. All right. Well, hey, my friends have spoken.
And I just want to just, add a little something to it, right? I went to this church a long time ago and they had like 9 collection plates. 9. So if that church could have 9 collection plates, 9 times through the service, the 4-hour service, mind you, 4.5 hours, I think you should put a tip jar out front for your services, Eddie T. That's all I'm saying.
Why we bring up the church?
I just want to say.
You knew he was going to do that.
I just feel like saying it. Are you offended?
I am.
I'm about to go to Super Saiyan mode.
Yeah, I know, right? Nah, all jokes aside, I see guys on the street when they're playing their music and they play real good, right? They can't stop, or whatever. I mean, when you in there, you moving and grooving, doing your thing, you don't want to be interrupted. You know what I mean? And I think it's a little bit easier for them just to drop the money in there, especially at the end of the night when you're closing up, packing up. They might forget. I think it's just very accessible for them to pay you for your services, man.
I get it. No, and I appreciate that. It's just, I look at a lot of times, if I'm already there doing something. Now, one thing that I'm going to just put it out there that will irritate me is if you keep coming back to my table asking me for a song that I know is going to kill the dance floor. I know it's going to kill it. Mm-hmm. You're the only one that wants to hear that off the wall, whatever it is that you have requested. Sometimes I have to look up stuff sometimes because a lot of times I haven't heard of whatever that particular, because man, it'll be way out in left field, something grunge, something crazy. And I'm like, that's a song that I think that you can play in your car on the way home, because you don't realize how hard I've worked to get everybody out here on the dance floor. You don't know how hard it is to keep people on the dance floor. And then just out of the blue, you pull something out just because you want to hear it. People don't understand that, man, that'll kill it. And then you got to work double hard to get everybody back to the dance floor.
What's crazy is I don't recall this in my early 20s, but like maybe it's because I was in a military town, but we always went to the club every Friday, Saturday, and the dance floor was always packed. Like It was always packed to a point to where they had to move tables back because there was too many people. They couldn't fit on the dance floor. But nowadays, you go, I don't know if it's the DJ ain't keeping it spinning right, to your point, or people just don't dance as much, or it's the people who dance just, the ankles and knees ain't working the same. I don't
Well,
know.
people don't dance like that anymore. Because, see, I've been asked to do, well, say, Colonel Esquire, when I went up to Wichita. Now, those kids, they came to dance. It wasn't hard to keep them on the dance floor. But typically, high schools and stuff. Now, if you do a prom, people are going to dance. But just like a high school party or something, they young like that, they're not hardly going to dance. They just don't do that anymore. But like when we were going to clubs like in the 20s and stuff, our whole purpose was we started getting ready at noon. We took that GQ magazine, opened that sample up, rubbed it on us. And, we laid our clothes out. We watched Soul Train. I'm doing this tonight. We prepared for that night. I don't care what nobody say. Dan, law-abiding citizen, Colonel Esquire, we've all done it.
Yeah.
We have all done it. We could not wait.
I was like,
yeah, we could not wait. We knew what we were wearing. Like I said, at noon, we knew what we were wearing when we left the house at 9 o'clock. We already knew. But we literally went to dance. That was our thing. We weren't going to lean on the wall. We were going to do none of that. We went to party.
I will say that the first organized dance I ever went to was the 8th grade in Glenpool Middle School. And when that DJ stopped playing the slow songs, I was mad as all outdoors.
Yeah, I bet you were.
I was trying to rub that GQ magazine on somebody else,
Hey, man, I'll never forget opening up a GQ magazine and they had Yope. And I was like, Jupe, man, what is this? And I opened it up and smelled it. I was like, ooh, I put that on. I'm like, man, we call it Jupe forever.
That is wild. That is wild.
Yeah, but man, people don't dance no more, man. It's very rare. But like you said, upper 40s and 50s and stuff. If because there's a club here called Chicago Bar and Grill. That dance floor is always packed. Man, people in the 80s are being there doing their thing. But I mean, like I'm saying, when you leave the house, you know what you're going to do.
Yeah. That's wild. My wife would dance all day.
Yeah.
If her mouth was crooked, she looked crazy, I just turn some music on. And she a little better. You know what I'm saying?
Reinforce the rhythm, double check the mics, reiterate the styles I know that you like. Get your rhyme ambassador, the man you've been asking for. Can't kick past your door, automatic. I got the charismatic persona. Bar stay hot like I'm sitting inside a sauna. I stay away from the drama. I separate myself from MCs like a sentence has got a comma. G-I-B, S to the O-N. Thank you, Lord, for the blessings that you're showing. I get on the mic and start going. It's so intoxicating, like a .08 that I'm blowing. A hobby of mine, but I do it like a profession. Bars over bass and treble, there's no question. Yes, I'm confessing. Before I got saved, I used to pull girls like this at my discretion. But that man is gone, he went away. At war with your flesh, gotta die each day. In Christ, I'm a new creature. But on this microphone, yo, I'm still a monster that'll haunt ya. Watch me go bonkers, I might go unconscious. Flavor in the beat like cayenne and cilantro. Bars are raining in the booth to wear a poncho. Man talk central, 4 dudes, quattro.
Shoot. So, I mean, granted, that's part of the freelance, and we've dabbled into the freelance, element of today's episode. But let's talk about the Natty or the NCAA polls. DJ Eddie T, you posed a great question. Like, why is it every year that whoever won the Natty, they're not ranked number 1 and allowed to come off that throne, right? So it's not something that we need to look up. This is just whatever you think, your thoughts. I personally believe that the ranking is BS, all right, because the voters who vote for it, they have biases, right? When Nick Saban was at the helm of Alabama, they were always 1 or 2, right? Regardless, right? So, I don't believe in that crap. But open up the floor. Colonel Esquire, you got anything to say about it?
Well, I think it's mainly, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would assume it's mainly based off of the recruiting classes, how well the colleges did as far as recruiting goes. Of course, there's bias, how they did last year, the conferences. I think there's probably, well, my main concern was, before the playoff, bracket or whatever, the preseason poll really made all the difference because if you're a smaller school or even a top, even a major conference, a school coming out of a major conference, if you're down at 18, 19, you could win all of your games or maybe have a one-loss season and you're still not going to get up high enough to the point where you're going to be in a playoff system. So, but now that the playoff system has been expanded, I guess you take a little bit of that out now. But I mean, preseason polls are just kind of, I think a lot of it's because of, it's the spark, interest in the media, give the media something to talk about. But, I mean, it's not like, I mean, they're the champions until they get defeated. But, if all their seniors are gone and you have a bad recruiting class, I can see why they wouldn't necessarily be ranked number one or whatever. So I think it's kind of like the stock market. You're kind of forecasting based on the talent that you have. I have no issue with preseason polls now because of the playoff being expanded. But before then, especially when they had the BCS and all that, it's like ridiculous. But now that they're trying to expand the playoffs, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Although it is pole position, you see what I'm saying? So it does matter, but I think the playoffs are going to help.
Gotcha. Good point. Very good point. Dan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's based off the recruiting class, for one. For two, I think it's a lot of bias in it. Don't get me wrong, SEC, I guess they say it's a great conference. I'm going to be an SEC fan now since Oklahoma went to the SEC, obviously a couple years ago, or however you want to put it. But I was always a Big 12 because Oklahoma was there. And those guys beat up each other, just like guys from the Big 10 would probably go in there, and the guys from the Pac-10 could probably go in there. But SEC's always going to be up there, so I think it's a huge bias. Some of those teams, if you look at their schedule and strength of schedule, which is what's supposed to be used to do the actual rankings, some of those, I mean, come on, who's playing Appalachian State, Alabama? Really? Are we really doing that? I get it, it's a tune-up game, but how are you ranked number one when you playing them? Stop. So I don't agree with a lot of that stuff. I think when the season starts rolling, it should be fair. Like, you got unranked teams like Boise, and I get it that, like I said, we understand its strength of schedule, but Boise's not in the top 12 or top 15, and they're undefeated, while you got a two-loss team in the top 15. That's not cool at all. So I think they need to relook at the whole structure, and I hope they do expand it to more than 18 teams for the playoffs. That'll give more opportunities for some of these teams like Indiana that came out of nowhere, unless somebody saw it, but I don't know who, and won the national championship. It gives them a fair shot to actually put their bid in and do some things.
The only thing I disagree with is expanding the what is it, playoff thing, right? Because what we're gonna do, we're gonna have 70 slots. I mean, it's never going to be fair, right? It's never going to be just, not unless you do it in accordance with how many conferences are there. If it's 12 conferences, maybe make it 12, right? That way you have a representative from each conference. That's the only thing I kind of like disagree with it because, and let's be realistic, they're doing it because they can make money, right? They're making more money.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think they should
sorry.
take like the top two teams from each conference, and at least this way you have representation from your conference. If you get put out, you get put out. It's like a round robin elimination. I mean, look at what they do with the Sweet 16. March Madness. They roll through a whole bunch of single eliminations, and until you get a championship. Why can't you do that with college football? Granted, I get it that it's more physical and these kids can get hurt more, but I think these kids will be willing to risk it for a chance at a chip or a chance at a ring or however we're putting it nowadays. I think these kids would want to do that to get their names out there.
I don't know, because you have a lot of them sitting games out now because they're
Well, they're
be like
sitting
a
out
top 10.
meaningless games because they're getting paid, then they're already gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
DJ Eddie T.
Yes, sir. So going back to the rankings for one, I was listening to a talk show, and that's where I kind of got the idea from. The gentleman had stated, when I put in there about before the ball is even hiked, you already have a number one set up, and then after week one, then that's when you go in and do all of your rankings. But in a sense, you have to do some rankings for something to get going, I guess. But I guess they do the shifting, even if, say, whoever's number one, whether it's Alabama or, Indiana or whomever, if they get dethroned, they jump down, 3, 4, 5 slots. So it's kind of, it's more of a media thing to get people going, I feel. But I want to jump to something else. Even if there were, like, with all of the shifting that has happened in the conferences the last couple of years, Big 12, I think we have 14 teams in the Big 12 or whatever it is. And some of the teams have switched up. If you were to take, say, like they do in NCAA in basketball, you'll have some HBCUs, you'll have some smaller schools that get in there. They may win that first game, and then they'll get mollywopped after that. So in football, I don't think that they could do that. If you take some HBCUs and throw them in there, because I know A&M will play Prairie View. Obviously that's just how they do it money-wise. But you can't take an A&M, put them against Prairie View. The score will be 72-3 in the first quarter. And you just can't have that because the recruiting is not the same. So, you're kind of, the scales are unbalanced to me on something like that. So, but as far as the way that the championship at the playoffs goes, I think it would be great if you were to add more teams, but you need a limit of some sort. But I don't think that you can just pull any and everybody, like, 2 people from each conference. That wouldn't that wouldn't sit well, because some people, they're not going to even watch that game because it's like there's no way in the world that they're going to beat that team. There's no way. But then again, you have that Cinderella group that comes in and does what they do. So
I think D1, if you're D1, it charges to the game. Like if you're D1 and you're in a D1 playoff and you get mollywop 72-3, okay, you get mollywop.
That's in the first quarter.
I don't necessarily know about D2. What's that?
That's in the first quarter.
That's what the first quarter. But I mean,
D3.
Like high school. Like for example, high school will, if you're a 4A, you'll play 5A and 6A teams. But then when you go to your conference schedule, you go back down to 4A. I mean, I get all that, but if you are trying to become part of the playoff system, whatever it is, if you're a smaller D1 school, but you're D1 and you're trying to work and scratch and claw your way into the playoff system, then you got to take what's coming to you. I could see if you were a D2 school and you're playing D1 schools and kind of you're taking your lumps, but then you go down back to your conference in D2 and then you clean up, that's what some people do. But if you're trying to be part of the playoff, you got to understand, you might be David going against Goliath. Who knows? But we'll never know until we match up the 2 teams.
That's correct. And again, I think like you stated earlier, it's all in the recruiting class because, a lot of people go where the money is, per se, especially when it comes to that. It's hidden or whatever the case, but now it's all out and open, I guess, with these NIL deals. You can't offer, grandpa a tractor and now I'm going to go to Notre Dame. It don't work like that now, like on Blue Chips. We were talking about this a few weeks ago. Yeah. What with Shaq and, all those guys in that movie. Man, I love that movie. That was one of the episodes that I missed, but I wanted to jump in. I wanted to jump in on that episode. Yeah, but now things have changed.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up the recruiting class because that gives those teams a chance to actually get seen, and that's how they do recruit some of them. Like you look at Ole Miss, right? A lot of people haven't seen them until they actually got on there. Then they got Lane Kiffin. Then they start getting more people to come to their school. Ole Miss has always been a decent school, But last year they did a nice job of recruiting cats and bringing cats in, and they got seen. So that's how they was able to do that. So that was the whole premise of what I was getting at. These schools need an opportunity. They need to be publicized. Not just keep with the SEC. And I get it. Ole Miss is an SEC school, but you understand the premise of what I'm talking about. So once you put these schools out there, some of these kids will be like, "Yo, I like that school. I might want to go to that school." How many people from Jackson State left because of Dion? You know what I mean? When Dion went to Jackson State, how many people went there? So we get these schools, we get them, and nobody knew about Jackson State till Dion got there, and they put it on TV.
Well, they knew about
don't
them,
get me
but it was
wrong,
the
we knew
band.
about them, but
They
the
knew about the
majority of
band.
America didn't know about them.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
exposure helps these schools and gets them some money and gets them these opportunities. I think the NCAA is kind of shortchanging these people by doing what they're doing and keeping it all in the SEC and holding all the money to themselves without exposing some of these schools to the proper avenues so they can recruit better.
Well, look at what was it about 3 years ago? I think UCF was undefeated. They weren't even top 10. But then you had TCU, both the Division I schools, they were undefeated and they got mollywopped, right? So it's like what not matrix, but what are they using to justify how a person is ranked number one, number two, right? I think we started in the beginning how the preseason poll should probably be based on recruiting class. But instead of identifying a school, I would probably identify the conference. Like where did the top individuals go? So you would be like, okay, SEC number one, but you don't have a team. Big 12 number two, but you don't have a team. But after week 2, then you start placing the teams in place based upon, who's winning, who's losing. But again, it goes back to Alabama. I remember a couple years, they had 3 legit games they played that year. It was, Georgia, Auburn, and maybe Oklahoma or Oklahoma State. But everybody else was, Appalachian State, Glenpool College, University of all sites. I mean, it was
Kennesaw.
shit that, it's like, come on, guys. Like, how do you do this? And then when a SEC team loses, they'll drop 2 or 3 slots. But just to stay competitive, because they'll probably win out. But if it was a Big 12 that was in that number 1 slot and they lost, they go to 7 or 8. It's like, come on,
Right.
Make it make sense. It just, don't get me wrong, to your point, Eddie T, I agree with you. It's just commentary to make us talk about it, right?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Is to make us talk about it. Nothing is perfect or whatever. And at the end of the day, whoever wins, wins. And I think this year, the number 1 is Ohio State. I think they have them ranked as number 1.
Even though Indiana won it.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Indiana, they've been building. They were kicking ass prior to winning. But they now fell off. They ain't got nobody else. That's how they're, I guess, looking at it, right? It's like, come on, but to your point, they should be number 1. Dan?
I think the only conference that will probably have an issue will be the independent. Because Notre Dame, right? Who else do they have in there besides Notre Dame that's going to do anything that's going to show up anywhere?
Never.
And every year Notre Dame's complaining about they don't get enough publicity, or they don't get enough TV run, or they don't get, into the actual playoffs. I think that would be one of the only conferences when you start looking at how the conferences are broke down. They may have an issue. That's it.
But by choice, they have chosen to not be in a conference, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do they expect?
Exactly.
Well, I get what you're saying, and I see their point to a certain extent. I do agree that they should be in a conference other than independent. I think they stay independent because they are trying to buck the system as far as your SEC conference. I mean, come on now. SEC runs everything. Every time you turn on the TV, what's the biggest conference? SEC. What's the biggest conference that they're going to show? SEC. What are the moneymakers? SEC. Nobody's looking at the ACC. You got Florida State, Miami, and all them. And it's mostly that's regional, but nationwide, people are going to watch the SEC conference. That's just the bottom line to it.
Now, Notre Dame, that's a religious school, correct?
Yeah, they're a Catholic school.
Right. Okay.
Which is crazy to me because their football team's independent, but every other sports program, they're part of the ACC.
Correct.
I don't see how that
That's right.
flip-flop.
I
Yeah.
forgot about that. That's right. Because I remember when the U, it was the convicts versus the Catholics.
Yeah.
I'm like, what kind of junk is this, man?
Yo. So when you let's talk about that now that you brought the U into it. Out of our years of watching football, college football, who do you think has had like the best dynasty? I ain't gonna say dynasty, but who would you rank as like your number one school? Like,
Man, I'm biased. I mean, I'm not from Florida, but I mean that I literally chose my number because of Melvin Bratton. I mean, I was watching the U. Man, 1, 2, and 3 was either Florida, Florida State, Miami. That's how it was there for years,
yo,
and everybody knew that. Bobby Bowden, Jimmy Johnson, and I can't think of who.
University of Florida.
Yeah, Florida's coaches were, but
Yeah.
I would have to say the U.
Spurrier. I think
Steve Spurrier, that's right.
Was there
That's
for
right.
a long time.
Yeah, I'd have to say Miami, and then of course I didn't go to OU, couldn't stand them. Some of them still can't, but man, OU had a freak. Man, they had a squad when Barry Switzer was there. Now Bob Stoops didn't. I want to say that he had some championships, obviously, but man, Barry Switzer that was. I'd have to say the U and OU in there somewhere.
I think Stoops only had one.
Okay.
Yeah, he only had one. Yeah. What's your thoughts, Colonel Esquire?
Well, my favorite dynasty is obviously the Miami Hurricanes. But if I'm going to be objective, which I hate to do that because I don't like this team, would be Alabama. And that's because of longevity with Nick Saban. Well, actually, they had two runs. They had Bear Bryant, and then Saban came in and surpassed Bear Bryant. So I would, objectively say Alabama had the greatest dynasty in college football. But my favorite is Miami Hurricanes.
Gotcha. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Unfortunately, that Alabama had the greatest dynasty. Unfortunately, I gotta agree with that. I'm not an Alabama fan by no means. But my favorite growing up was Florida State. I was all about Florida State. Them cats could play. They get drummed by the U. Yeah, I get you. You was probably the second best dynasty out there, but I was a Florida State fan.
Yeah, I was never really a big Alabama fan, one, because they kept beating Oklahoma, right? But they did have a nice dynasty, but I got to go with the University of Miami. And I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say that University of Miami probably has more NFL Hall of Famers than Alabama. Alabama had a lot of great collegiate, probably Hall of Famers, but NFL Hall of Famers, I don't think Alabama has that many. I could be wrong. But
you have to throw Penn State in there too. I mean, Penn State would kind of had a little run there too under Paterno.
Yeah, I think they only won one though.
Yeah, I'm just saying as far as they were always up solid. There, and they were solid each and every year. You knew they were going to be contenders.
Yeah.
What happened to him? Didn't they get into some scandal? And then when they found out he died?
Yeah. No, it was one of his offensive coordinator or one of his staff members.
Yeah, one of his staff members
he was a pedophile and would do a lot of things.
Yeah. And they were waiting, I guess, until basically Paterno passed before they did some sort of punishment. You know what I'm saying?
Well, no, once it all came out, that's when he passed away. I think from the stress.
When it all came out.
Yeah, I think they were waiting until he got like close to retiring and getting out of Penn State is when they blew up everything.
Look, that's
he's messing with the players, right?
Right, and the trainers or whatever the case was.
They would bring in little kids. Remember, he had little kids that he would bring up there to showcase, to show them around the campus and things of that nature. It was foul. But you remember when Saddam Hussein, when that statue fell? That's how Paterno's statue fell.
Yeah.
They yanked that Jacob down. I was like, damn.
Wow.
Only because he knew. He did know.
That's what I was saying. I think it came out that he actually knew what was going on and he didn't do nothing to protect the players.
Yeah, he turned a deaf ear.
That's why because he wasn't directly involved, but he did not protect the players. And that was the problem.
You know, that's just kind of weird to me, as you know, because I've never been in that situation, never been essayed or anything like that. When someone is of that age, I'm thinking that you should be able to stand up and say, hey, man, this is not right. But then again, from that staff or whomever, just hey, well, if you say something, I'll take away your scholarship. Or, yeah, I mean, how do you continue to let something like that go on? I mean, again, I've never been in that situation. I can't speak on that. I'm just saying, as a young man, how do you not say something to somebody, or a young lady for that matter?
They
Well,
I don't know how it is in the civilian world, but I know in the military world they have like restricted and unrestricted reports, right? So you have to be very delicate how you handle that situation. But the people around you, if you know it's a fact, you shouldn't promote the individuals that are doing it. You should get them out of there and do something, do it yourself if you know for a fact. But as far as the people reporting, it's not easy for people to come forward and tell their story or tell the truth, especially now where people are victim blaming and victim shaming. It's a sad situation. Some of these people have things that happen to them, and when they confide in somebody, um, it's hard to decide whether or not you want to betray their trust. I guess is the best way to put it. So you're put in a dilemma where you're morally bound to do something, but you don't want to betray this person's trust. And if you betray that person's trust, there's a possibility you may have ruined their opportunity or their uh, encouragement to come forward and discuss that. But there are different avenues for people that have had that issue. The problem is you got to be delicate how you handle that issue. And a lot of these places aren't delicate when they handle that issue. Some people don't want it out, and these places are letting it out. And then talking about there's a leak. No, bro, you opened up your mouth. You know what I mean? So you gotta be careful how you do that.
you know, I always try to speak from experience, right? And I will tell you, I go back to when I had the incident in ninth grade with my mother's husband, whereas everybody thought he was such a great guy, and but his family knew he was homosexual, right? His family knew that he was a he met all the criteria for a homosexual. He did hair, he was the choir director, piano player, all that crazy stuff, right? And the moment I told my mom, hey, this dude touched me, you know what I'm saying? She didn't believe it. I was the liar, right? So now, mind you, I took it in my own hands and just made things worse, right? I'm thankful to be where I am today. But, imagine telling somebody that this has happened to you and they don't take it, they think you're lying or because you was on punishment or what have you, and no action is taken. Some people may not have been able to stand up for themselves. Luckily, I was. And it sucks. It sucks out there. So for all those pedophiles and folks out there like that, and those who are hiding them and everything, I despise you. I can't stand you. And it's tough. It's tough. Now I've always told my kids from when they were young. I tell my grandkids, don't nobody. If somebody touches you in these places, or you tell them no, or what have you, hey, come to Pop Pop. Pop Pop will take care of it because I don't have no sympathy for these folks out here that does this crap to kids. But anyway, sorry,
And
I
you
went
went
off.
and you went to your safe space and didn't, get the backing that you felt as if you deserved. And
Correct.
I know now I can see that that's still painful for you.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is because the thing is, it's like, ooh,
It, it's a phenomenon that I don't understand it, and I definitely. Uh, I mean, I can't relate, but I definitely am in your corner 100%. I regret and wish that something like that didn't happen. Unfortunately, things like that do happen. I mean,
mhm.
something like that. My wife is a victim as well. I'll leave it at that. Uh, I just dealt with a case where stepdad was, for years, from like the age of 14 to 18, when this young lady moved out of the house, was, you know, assaulting her, harassing her. Um, you know, um, Told the mom about it. The mom didn't believe her. I mean, literally, there's a situation where the mom walked in and saw the stepdad kissing on the stepdaughter and had the nerve to accuse her daughter of initiating it. I'm like, really? Like, this is a grown man and this is a kid. No questions asked. He should have been out of there. So I just, it hadn't even happened to me, but it's painful for me to even discuss stuff like that
Yeah.
because people look to parents or people, as DJ DT said, safe space. You know, the one person that you're supposed to go to is the one person that is betraying you, and it just drives me up the wall. You see what I'm saying? I don't get that. You know, and I know you have to, you know, you have to forgive and move on. And like DJ DT told me one time, you know, the saying of you know, drinking poison and expecting someone else to get hurt from it or die from it, you know, that's kind of what regret is. You know, you got to like let it go. You got to be able to like deal with it somehow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's where my plug for Christ comes in. If you don't have that, I mean, I don't even see how people deal with pain without God. But it's just unfortunate that you and other people had to go through stuff like that. And it's one thing if it happened to you like at a bar or out and about and no one's around. But if you had the opportunity to go and report it or seek help and you were denied the help, man, that's even worse.
Yeah.
So I am sorry.
No,
Same
no
here.
apology needed. But I will tell you this: it felt good giving him that 2-piece though. When that shit gets teeth full of that, hey, you know what I'm saying? It felt pretty good, you know. But you know, I'm just trying to make a little lighten the mood a little bit.
Oh no, I got you. But man, hey, pain is pain, and man, we can see that still affects you. And the thing that we speak of, or we don't speak of enough, is a simple word called forgiveness. I know that he's no longer here on earth, but for you to move forward, you have to forgive him, because you cannot enter the gates of heaven without forgiving someone here. It states in the word, if you don't forgive, how can I forgive? Jesus, he can't forgive us if we don't forgive here. So one thing you have to do is forgive him for that.
He's still working on me. That's all I would say. He's still working on me.
Yeah.
You know, but the good thing about it is I don't let it decide my output, how I treat people or anything like that. You know, I'm just me, you know, the good and the bad. But I get where you're coming from. I definitely get where you're coming from. But again, he's still working on me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, so,
I'm
yeah.
deeply saddened that this happened. And there's really no words you can say to make it better, except for, man, I know I didn't do anything, but I do apologize if it happened to you. Hopefully your story will help somebody out there that's watching this podcast if they're in that situation, and they will continue to seek help and continue to try to do what they need to do to get away from that situation within their power.
Right.
Hopefully somebody out there can get reached and get touched, and your story can give them courage to go do something and get some help.
Yeah. Learn how to box. Give that joke a 2-piece. You know. Now, you know, nah, I'm not even gonna say it. That'll be inappropriate. I know Ephraim will edit it out. And I'm gonna say it anyway. Look, now if my mom was a lesbian and she was with Jane Kennedy, oh, it'd have been on and popping. It'd have been on and popping, baby. That's what we do.
Man Talk Central. That's what we're doing here. 4 dudes out of the mud, never ruling here. We give it to you, deliver like Amazon. You're listening to Kings and Champions.
Okay. All right. On that note, gentlemen, let's go ahead, proceed to close. I'm gonna go ahead and open it up to Dan. What you got for the people?
Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. We just some guys giving our opinions, and hopefully we didn't get too over the top for y'all. But if you are in a serious note, if you are in a situation, please seek help and continue to seek help. And hopefully your loved ones will be there for you. But one last thing, treat everybody how you want to be treated, and hopefully we can all get along.
Outstanding, Colonel Esquire.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, everybody, for checking us out. Again, like, share, subscribe to the podcast. We want to grow, spread the movement. Real quick, I out in Oklahoma. There's a military base, Tinker Air Force Base. There has been a string of suicides, not only on the base, but across our armed forces. Leaders have been reaching out to the religious community, trying to get support. Some religious leaders have reached out to kind of spread the network. And I will say that the three of us on this podcast, and even DJ ADT, he's well experienced, seasoned, experienced a lot of things. This podcast collectively, our hearts go out to the families that have been affected by the suicides, and we just want to let you all know that as fellow veterans, suicide's a permanent solution for a temporary situation. Long story short, there's nothing that you are going through that is worth taking your life over. There's help, there's resources. Reach out to somebody. If you can't reach out to family, reach out to a friend. You can't reach out to a friend, reach out to a stranger. You can't reach out to a stranger, reach out to us. We definitely want to be there. We have a great network of resources. We've been through the struggle as far as military life. DJ ADT has been through the struggle of life and adversity. We're all Generation X, older, experienced men. We've gone through it. We can relate, and we encourage everybody, to keep grinding, keep fighting. Have God order your steps. Like, share, subscribe. I'll post some links as far as on the episode, as far as where veterans can find help and get resources. But thank you for tuning in again. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, sir. DJ ADT.
Yes, sir. Hey, one thing I can say about this podcast is we're real. When you open up like we have opened up, I hope it touches someone, as Dan had stated earlier. And we are a group of men who have gone through a lot of different things, had different walks of life. But one thing that we do want to push is that we will be real here on this podcast. But as we're leaving, I always say keep God first, and make sure that if you don't have a church home, find your church home.
Outstanding. As we close this episode, let's pause, honor the loved ones we've lost, appreciate those who still walk beside us, and welcoming the new lives that remind us hope is always being renewed. Remember, our time isn't endless. We got more days behind us. So choose to make the ones you have left count. Lead with kindness, act with purpose, and whatever you do, do it with conviction. Make it your impact. Make it meaningful, and above all, make it yours. So with that, we, the four brothers, true Dallas Cowboy fans, I said peace to the next episode.